There's a video on capitalism from 1948. After this, I'm probably going to stop and go get ready for D&D, by the way.
I wonder where he is. Oh, hiya, Jim.
Hi.
Well, look, we still have a few minutes before we go on the air. I'd like to tell you
There's
about
nothing
the time
funny
that
about the
Eleanor and I
tools
went
of
down.
capitalism.
Oh, let's save the talk.
I expect no
We agreed that
bias.
Capitalism is an economic system.
Same.
A system for the production and distribution of things we need and want.
I won't agree to that. Not until you say something about government, too.
There's nothing funny about the
There
tools
has
of
to be a
capitalism.
legal basis for any economic system to operate.
Tetsuyo Dragneel with 5 bits. The video of the towers reminded me that according to Drama CD in the original Digimon Adventures universe, it's canon that
There's
kids with
nothing funny about
Digimon
the
helped
tools
find
of
survivors when it
capitalism.
happened. And Mimis parents made food for people there. Oh, God. How about Digimon chooses not to cover what happened in 9/11 in the Digimon universe in canon? That'd be great. More Wendy's? Oh, God.
Coffee, decaf, tea, and hot chocolate. Those are the hot drinks that you serve, so get set.
Why are they trying to be hip? No one who works at Wendy's gives a fuck. Just tell them what you want them to say and how to serve the food. I was gonna say shitty food, but honestly, out of the fast food places, Wendy's is pretty good. So,
Hot, hot, careful when you pour it. Hold it steady upon the counter, let it sit.
okay, that's enough of that. We get it. Now let's hear about how capitalism, which produces things like Wendy's and that awful training video, is the best.
Well, it's easy to see that you have different ideas of what capitalism is. Maybe we should talk about what it is not. It is not a system of strict governmental control and planning in which a dictator or board tells people what jobs they may hold and what
There's
goods they
nothing
may
funny about
produce.
the tools
And
of
it's not a
capitalism.
system of government ownership.
Cascadia 93, because capitalism is cool, Hannah. It's the 80s, Hulk Hogan and Ronald Reagan. Rambo!
That's right, capitalistic
Sagloon, thank you for
propaganda.
following. Welcome to the stream.
Let me tell you about something. It shows that the basis of the capitalistic system is private property. It happened when Eleanor and I went down to get the things for the class weenie roast. We went to Mr. Brown's store. Well, that's what I mean.
And certainly, this is all capitalism
funny
will
about
ever
the
be,
tools of
right?
capitalism.
A man behind a counter serving you and paying, and you pay him, and he owns the store. Certainly we won't wind up in a situation where giant conglomerates pay people to do the work that they could do themselves if they could afford to own the means of production, but instead will pay them minimum wage to do the job that owners used to do in their own businesses. Of course not.
Mr. Brown really...
Cat and Candy 903. I would probably remember less if Duncan showed me those videos. I would just block it from my mind.
He owns property. All those store fixtures and the groceries in there, and, well, the whole store.
And I'm sure that's how it'll always be. The people who work in the stores will be the owners. That's exactly how capitalism will always work. And the conglomeration of both capital and the means of production will not be funneled towards
nothing
the
funny
top.
about the tools of
Don't worry
capitalism.
about it. Stone Corbell with 20 bits. Pay no attention to the multi-billion-dollar international corporations that use their money and influence to control governmental policy.
It's his property, and he can do almost anything with it that he likes. We needed weenies. Mr. Brown had weenies. It's as simple as
There's
that.
nothing funny about the
You
tools
might
of
argue about his
capitalism.
prices.
Cascadia with a bit. To be fair to this video, a little, skipping the racist exclusion, this was a little closer to the truth. The issue is obviously that no one stopped it at that. Yeah, which is why you need government interference. You need government intervention in systems in order for it to function. Like, I don't necessarily have a problem with the idea of capitalism in theory, right? Like, the idea that, like, yeah, if you own a shop on your own and you want to run it, like, I get that. I understand that as an ideal. But that's not how it works out. Fundamentally, if the government doesn't get involved and make sure things don't get out of hand and that these giant conglomerates don't happen, then you wind up in a system where you can't own a store on your own as an individual because you're competing with giant multi-billion-dollar corporations like Walmart, and then you have to be an employee for them, and there's no chance for you to be able to own your own shit. Like, I don't know what the solution is, but it's certainly not more capitalism, right?
Anyway, Eleanor did. But after all, he has a right to earn something for the goods and services he supplies, and he does supply services as well as goods. When we agreed to buy everything from him, weenies, buns, marshmallows, and charcoal, he agreed to give us extra service,
There's nothing funny
deliver
about the
everything in
tools
his
of
truck.
capitalism.
And since we didn't have enough
And you have to then loan money from a billionaire to keep your store open. Yeah.
cars, he agreed to make another trip and take a lot of the kids out to the picnic. And he could help us that way because the truck is his private property.
And it's, by the way, it's not like the understanding that capitalism as it exists in the United States, it's not like it was a foreign concept that these sort of things would lead to the result of having, you know, wealth being funneled towards a top percent of people and the rest of people being exploited for their labor. Like, I'm not a Marxist by any means, but, like, he did predict that shit, right? Like, at the end of the day, people knew that this stuff was gonna happen, and they were like, no, it's fine. Or, like, even worse, there are people who are like, good, I hope I'm in that top 1%. It's, like, really messed up.
And he can do just about anything with it that he wants. That's how a capitalistic system operates. The people own property and use it to provide the goods and services that all of us need.
That's what I mean about government. Mr. Brown's very right to own property is guaranteed by our Constitution. Yes, but, well, Bill's missed the whole point to what happened at Mr. Brown's store. Mr. Brown has property, all right, but that's not what he's interested in. And he does help supply us with things we want. But that's not why he's in business. He's in business to make money. There's the basis of the capitalistic system, the profit motive.
And I'm sure nothing bad will ever come of the profit motive being put ahead of everything else. Don't worry about it.
He may give service when he has to make a profit. Well, when I complained that his prices were too high, he could see those profits going right out the window if we didn't buy from him. So naturally he offered to help us out with his truck, so he could make a sale
There's nothing
and
funny
a
about
profit.
the tools of
And
capitalism.
just think of all the others who made a profit on those weenies.
Catalina Gearbox with $3. This is why I hate when people tell me to go work at a factory. I want to be paid more. Not everyone can or should be forced to work in a factory. I have worked in too many of them to tell you how crap they are today. I believe you. Unions have been completely destroyed. No, I say completely. Unions have been thoroughly destroyed in this country. So there's not a lot of outlet for workers to have, you know, recourse towards their employers if the situation they're in is bad.
Cattle growers, meat packers, shippers, distributors, they're all in business to make profit.
Of course they make a profit. And it's a good thing. That's the incentive that makes capitalism work.
How about you do what you do for a living because it's a role in society? Really? You're like, I would totally not farm, but I make money doing it, so I'll do it. Like, okay, but like people need food. So someone needs to make that food, and someone needs to process that food, and someone needs to ship that food, and someone needs to sell that food. Why are we all skimming off the top, right? At the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know.
To give us more of the things that we need. That's the incentive that other economic systems lack.
I think you've both missed the point. It's competition. That's why Mr. Brown offered his truck. He wanted to make sure you'd buy from him and not from a competitor.
And why was he free to make that offer? Freedom of contract. You and Mr. Brown entered into a contract, an agreement. You agreed to buy what you needed from him. He agreed to let you use the truck. In the same way, he got the weenies by entering into a contract with the wholesaler. And he got the truck by entering into a contract with someone else. Under a capitalistic system, you're free to make almost any kind of a contract with anyone.
Freedom of contract, competition, profit motive, private property. And what do they all add up to? Free enterprise. Well, that's what capitalism is. A system of free enterprise.
Well, now tell us what free enterprise means.
All right. It means that you can go into business wherever and however you please.
Okay, but functionally that's not how it works, right? Like, in a system where we have in the United States, where you have such free, like, almost laissez-faire capitalism, where there are so few regulations, and you're allowed to do whatever you want, we've wound up in a situation where you can't just open a small business in your little town and serve the people within it. You're inherently going to be competing with giant corporations, and you're always going to lose that fight. Like, you can't win. It implies that the system is going to be fair and equitable to everyone in it, regardless of what you're going into the system with, and it's not the case. It just isn't. Like, you can't open a tiny grocery store and expect to compete with Walmart. You're not going to be able to compete on prices or services or availability of goods. You just won't be able to do it. So what do you do when you're in a situation where you literally cannot have people opening businesses for themselves and everyone has to go and work for some giant corporation where they're going to produce more value than is being given back to them in the form of compensation? Because people don't get paid more than they're worth. Because if they were, that business goes out of business, right? So inherently, when you're doing a job, like the work you do at Walmart is more valuable to Walmart than the amount they're paying you. That's how they make a profit. They pay you a certain amount of money to do a certain thing, and then they sell goods for a certain amount of money, more so than they paid for that. That also covers the labor costs, and then they make money on it, right? They're basically middlemen. Even though everyone in the Walmart are the one who make Walmart function, even though the people who, like, order the food and stock the shelves and do maintenance on the cash registers and all the, like, self-checkout things, they're the ones who actually make the business function. But really, they don't own that business. They're not the ones who gain the benefits of that business, even though they're the ones who are actually making it function. They're effectively being hired by middlemen who are there only to hire other people to come and do a job that they don't want to do. And all the people who hire them to do that is sit in a boardroom and take the profit, right? Like, that's a fucked up system. Careful, though, if you're in a right-to-work state and your supervisors find out, oh, you're talking about unionizing? Yeah.
Anybody can go into any business. Any legal business, that is.
No, they can't. They cannot. I cannot go open a supermarket tomorrow and have it be a sustainable business. It's just impossible. I can't go tomorrow and start my own internet ISP or start a Netflix competitor. Like, you just cannot do this. You need to already have capital at this point, because corporations are so big in this country. If you don't already have a large amount of capital, there's no way for you to get your foot in the door and to start a competing business with these people. It's impossible. Cascadia 93. But that's not how the Honorable James McCarthy told me, Hannah, and he's a trustworthy man.
But I still say you can't leave government out of the discussion. Government must at least guarantee the right of private property and freedom of contract in order that...
Quiet, please, everybody. We're on the air in a few seconds.
Is this like another bit
This is
shoot
Ray Bennett, acting
type
as
site
moderator for the
and
Western High
Sargon's
School
on it?
Radio
Yeah.
Forum. Our topic today,
Questionable.
What is capitalism? We hear capitalism, capitalistic system, on every hand, on the radio, in newspapers, magazines, books, in lectures and daily conversation. But just what is capitalism? To start our forum, we will present a few candid interviews, recorded remarks of representative citizens of our town who were asked for their opinions about our capitalistic system.
Capitalism? Well, why should there be any question about it?
Well, that settles it. We're done. We can pack up, folks. We're good.
Hasn't it given us the highest standard of living in the world?
Surely it won't get out of control in the next 50 years and screw over the workers. That'll never happen.
We don't have free enterprise, just bureaucratic red tape. The government ought to keep its hands off business.
Fuck you. If you can't deal with reasonable government regulation, then you can't afford to be in business, period.
Freedom of contract? Don't know about that. We've got the union and seniority. I make a living. I should worry.
Where's all this competition we've heard so much about? You call these prices low?
Well, perhaps I'm glad I can work for myself. With capitalism, you take your choice.
It seems that capitalism means different things to different people. Let's hear now from our town treasurer, Mr. John Howard.
We say we live in a capitalistic society. What does that mean? Well, we can point to certain fundamental ideas which we say are part of a capitalistic system. For example, private property. Individuals or corporations may own land, natural resources, buildings of all kinds, machinery and equipment for the production of goods, facilities for the transportation of goods, and the goods themselves. In a capitalistic system, these are usually private property.
Is he gonna say, buy up all your competitors so you can raise the price? I doubt they'd be that blatant.
Another idea fundamental to capitalism is the profit motive. For the sake of profit, we cultivate the land. We build great factories to produce goods.
And we jack up your insulin prices! Pay me $300 or you die! Good idea. It's worked out really well. Thanks, guys.
We sell for profit. The goods thus produced, we transport over large distances, still for the sake of profit. Those who have savings often invest or lend them, hoping for a share of profit. And in so doing, help to build the industrial...
Less than 50% of Americans own stock, and 90% of stock is owned by the top, I forget if it's 1% or 10%. Either way, this idea that, like, the common person is super invested in the stock market in such a way as to, like, become part of, like, the capitalist system is just not true. Like, the vast majority of stock is owned by a very few people.
Real might of the nation. Some other ideas are basic to capitalism. Competition, freedom of contract, free enterprise. What do they mean? Could these rights exist without laws that define and protect them? Do just these few things make up a capitalistic system? Or should something more be said? Perhaps your forum will have some of the answers.
There is more to be said, Mr. Howard. A great deal more. That's why we're holding this forum. Now it's up to you. Listen, consider, discuss. This is your forum. What is capitalism?
Trash.
Do just these few things make up a capitalistic system? Or should something more be said? Perhaps your forum will have some of the answers.
There is more to be said, Mr. Howard. A great deal more. That's why we're holding this forum. Now it's up to you. Listen, consider, discuss. This is your forum. What is capitalism?
Bad. Alright. That's my hot take. Alright, that's it for today. I'm gonna go get ready for D&D. I'm hungry, and I gotta cut this up real quick before the game starts. So, thanks everyone. I'm gonna raid Actual Jake, because we're gonna be doing D&D in about 30 minutes over there. So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a lot of fun. What is capitalism? The inability to retire and die younger than you should because you can't afford healthcare. Anyway, thanks everyone. It was a fun stream. I'll be back tomorrow for Chud Watch, so come back for that. We'll see what John Doyle's been up to and all sorts of other fun people. So have a good night. Chat is valid. See you guys later.